Welcome to the Restricted Handling Podcast, What's Coming Up Next Week in the World. I'm glad you're here, because the week of February 22nd through February 28th, 2026 is one of those calendar-heavy, signal-loaded stretches where symbolism and structure matter just as much as substance. We roll into Monday, February 23rd, and it's stacked. In Brussels, EU foreign ministers gather for the Foreign Affairs Council on February 23rd. Ukraine and the Middle East are right at the top of the agenda. Expect disciplined messaging, not drama. The EU machine tends to move like a German train schedule, steady, deliberate, occasionally delayed, but rarely chaotic. Watch for how unified they sound on Ukraine funding and whether Gaza language tightens or softens. Also on Monday, February 23rd, Russia marks Defender of the Fatherland Day. It's a national holiday, heavy on symbolism, uniforms, and patriotic framing. Think less fireworks, more state television pageantry. When Moscow leans into military imagery on a date like this, it's about narrative reinforcement, reminding domestic audiences of continuity from the Soviet era through today. Operationally, expect slower bureaucratic tempo, but rhetorically, this is prime time for carefully scripted messaging. On Monday, February 23rd, the UN Human Rights Council opens its new session in Geneva with its high-level segment. Governments line up to state their positions on Ukraine, on Israel and Gaza, and on China-related human rights issues. It's not glamorous, but it's where language gets set. If you've followed this arena for decades, you know the real action is often in the phrasing. Also Monday, February 23rd, the Bank of Israel announces its interest rate decision. Normally, that's an economic story. Right now, it's geopolitics with spreadsheets. Markets are watching how Israel balances inflation pressures with regional instability. The tone of the statement will matter as much as the rate itself. Tuesday, February 24th, marks the 4th anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. In Brussels that day, the European Parliament holds an extraordinary plenary sitting to debate and vote on Ukraine. This is about signaling unity and resolve, the political equivalent of planting a flag on the calendar. Also on Tuesday, February 24th, EU leaders Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa are expected to travel to Ukraine to mark the anniversary. High visibility, high symbolism. Think of it as diplomatic optics with real policy underpinnings. Expect strong language on sustained support, but likely within already agreed political lanes. On Tuesday afternoon, February 24th, the UN Security Council holds a scheduled briefing on Ukraine in New York. This is a familiar stage. Russia defends its position, Western members push back, language is negotiated down to the comma. It's less about surprises and more about reinforcing red lines. Wednesday, February 25th, brings closed-door UN Security Council consultations on the DPRK 1718 Sanctions Committee. North Korea has just convened a major party congress, and while these consultations are routine, the context is not. Watch for hints about enforcement friction or panel of experts politics. Also on Wednesday, February 25th, the IMF releases its annual U.S. Economic Policy Review, with Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva briefing in Washington. That might sound distant from Ukraine or China, but IMF language on deficits, trade, and global spillovers feeds directly into sanctions durability and alliance cohesion. Finance is strategy in a different suit. In Seoul, the Bank of Korea's policy-setting meeting is dated Thursday, February 26th. South Korea lives under the constant shadow of North Korean unpredictability. Monetary stability is part of national resilience. On Thursday, February 26th, Russia's central bank publishes its summary of the key rate discussion and its medium-term forecast commentary. Given sanctions, war spending, and inflation pressure, every word from Moscow's technocrats gets parsed. Russia has long prided itself on macro discipline, even when its politics look like a Cold War reboot. Finally, Friday, February 27th, includes a UN Security Council monthly wrap-up session and an OPCW reporting trigger. Chemical weapons accountability, particularly in the Syria file, still draws sharp divides between Russia and Western members. These procedural slots can quietly reignite old battles. Now the watch list for the week of February 22-28th. First, potential movement on a 20th EU sanctions package. The anniversary window is prime timing for progress, but only if political alignment holds. Second, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said new European energy and military aid packages are expected around the anniversary period. Watch for delivery or formal announcement on or around February 24th. Third, outcomes from North Korea's Party Congress could surface at any point during the week. Personnel shifts, new military goals, or doctrine tweaks would be deliberate signals, not improvisation. That's your week ahead. Thanks for listening and being part of the RH community. Please take a moment to leave a 5-star review. If you want to see some changes, email us at info@restrictedhandling.com. We also publish a daily written intel brief on Substack, where you'll find even deeper coverage of Russia and China, along with insights on Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK.